Thank you, Jessica. It is great to be here. Today's also Father's Day, so I begin with a big shout out to all the fathers in the audience and at home. Wish them a happy Father's Day. A special shout out to my son and mate Nathan, and of course his wonderful mum Carmel, who are here today. I thank you for your support today and every day. Certainly a Father's Day with a difference and one to remember. One of the motivations of our great Labor movement has always been to provide the next generation with a greater quality of life than the current one. It's why Labor seeks to both create and anticipate the long-term future, whilst at the same time dealing with the more immediate issues. It is great to be part of a modern Labor government that is building the jobs, the schools, the infrastructure and the hospitals of the future. I've come a long way from Camperdown. I never imagined when I was Nathan's age that I'd be standing here as the Deputy Labor Leader and Deputy Prime Minister of Australia. But Labor creates opportunity. Labor seeks to govern because we understand that government can play a role in improving people's lives. Our opponents seek government because they believe that is what they are entitled to. For Labor, government is never the end in itself. We govern so that we can build for the future. It's the Labor way. We built the age pension. We built the Transcontinental Railway. We built the Snowy Mountain Scheme. We opened up universities. We built Medicare, and now we're building disability care. Over the past 6 years, it's been my great honour to serve both Kevin Rudd and Julia Gillard. Both of them have led good nation-building governments that saw us through tough global economic times. We created almost 1 million jobs. We have low inflation. We have low interest rates. We have higher workforce participation. We have lower industrial disputes than occurred under work choices. And we've achieved all of this We have achieved all of this with a AAA credit rating. We returned fairness to the workplace. We're increasing the superannuation guarantee from 9% to 12%. We introduced the largest ever pension increase in Australia's history. We took 1 million of the poorest paid Australian workers out of the tax system by tripling the tax-free threshold, something that I know my good friend and passionate advocate for the disadvantaged, a great Queenslander, Wayne Swan, is particularly proud of. We've taken action on climate change. We've supported the development of renewable energy. I'll give you just one example. More than 1 million solar panels have been installed across Australia on our watch. We're delivering sustainability for the Murray-Darling Basin, talked about for decades, delivered by Labor. If you'll excuse me a bit of indulgence on infrastructure. They talk infrastructure, but they don't do infrastructure. we have doubled the road's budget. We got the Hume Highway finished from Sydney to Melbourne on our watch. We have rebuilt 1/3 of the entire interstate rail freight network, and something that I'm particularly proud of is that we have invested more into urban public transport since 2007 than all governments combined from Federation right up to 2007. Of course, we had a pretty low bar compared with our predecessors. The Howard government spent not a single dollar, exactly what Tony Abbott is promising to do, not a dollar to urban public transport. You can't deal with urban congestion if you don't build the Cross River Rail and the Melbourne Metro. And of course, our most important visionary infrastructure project, the National Broadband Network. The NBN will transform the way that we work and the way that we live. The only limits to it are our imagination. What we know is that if you get the infrastructure right, you'll get the results over a period of time. If any single issue defines the failure of the coalition to build for the future, it is their support for the outdated, unreliable copper network of last century. But of course, all those gains are at risk on September 7. Remember Medibank, introduced by Gough Whitlam's government, removed by the Conservatives. It took the great Bob Hawke to deliver and entrench Medicare. Along with other social and economic reforms, including by working cooperatively through the Accord, not dividing the nation, uniting the nation. I pay tribute today to Australia's longest-serving Labor Prime Minister, Bob Hawke, and I welcome Bob and Blanche here today and would ask you to stand up, Bob, stand up. Bob worked with a fella, the nation's greatest treasurer, who got a few fans here. Paul Keating, of course, went on to become Australia's 24th Prime Minister. Paul Keating transformed our economy. Can you imagine any of the Tories having the guts and the vision to do what he did to the Australian economy? Set it up for 22 years of consecutive economic growth. And we're building on his legacy in superannuation, who delivered the best superannuation system in the world. We intend making it just a little bit better. I say to Bob Hawke and to Paul Keating that John Howard may have become Prime Minister in 1996, but much of your tremendous legacy is intact today because you gave us long-term Labor government that entrenched your great reforms. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I've had a bit to do with John Howard. Whatever you say about John Howard, he was a man of intellect who had a vision for his country. Not my vision, but a vision nonetheless. But let there be no doubt, Tony Abbott is no John Howard. Mr. Abbott is a man mired in pessimism and stuck in the past. He just sits in the parliament. We've seen it day after day. He sits there and just says, no, 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 no. He's sharp when it comes to three-word slogans, but dull when it comes to new ideas. He's energetic when it comes to running around Lake Burley Griffin, but he's pretty lazy when it comes to policy development. If you want a bloke who can jump through tyres, vote for Tony Abbott. But if you want a bloke who can guide you through the next financial crisis, vote for Kevin Rudd. Mr. Abbott is a true blue conservative in every single sense of the word. He finds comfort in the status quo. He struggles with change, and because of that, he offers no progress. In today's fast-moving world, if you're standing still, the world goes straight past you. That is what will happen to our nation. He'll tell you what he thinks you want to hear, but he won't tell you what you need to know. What you need to know is whose jobs will be destroyed by Mr. Abbott's cuts if he wins next Saturday. While we build for the future, Mr. Abbott lives in the past. He talks down our economy and he talks down our nation. He doesn't have a plan for next week, let alone a plan for next month, next year, or a decade from now. Where is Tony Abbott's vision? What are his priorities? During the debate about action on climate change, Mr. Abbott described the science around the issue as absolute crap. His policy response is to plant a few trees. Laudable aim on its own, but no answer to a problem that is so profound that it requires us to harness the power of the market in the form of an emissions trading scheme. Now, it's one thing to be a climate sceptic, but it's another thing altogether to also be a market sceptic. Mr. Abbott is both. When Labor asked Parliament to consider what has been recognised as the world's best targeted economic stimulus package, aimed at saving the jobs of Australians during the global financial crisis, where was Mr. Abbott? He was snoozing in his office. When Labor moved to wire Australia to the world via the National Broadband Network, an economic game changer that will create jobs and revolutionise communication, Mr. Abbott said that he had appointed Malcolm Turnbull to destroy the project. His words, not mine. At least appointing Mr. Turnbull to sell the fraud ban policy does show that Mr. Abbott does have a perverse sense of humour. We know that Mr Turnbull believes in his fraud ban policy of fibre to 40,000 fridges at the end of your street about as much as he does direct action on climate change. He called it, Mr Turnbull's words, a recipe for fiscal recklessness on a grand scale. Let's be clear. The Coalition's fraud ban plan is like building a 4-lane bridge that ends with a single-lane dirt road. You don't get any benefit from the bridge unless you go back later on and widen and upgrade the road, and it will cost you more when you have to go back and do it later. On broadband, we will do it once, do it right, and we will do it with fibre. Today, Australia took over the presidency of the United Nations Security Council in New York. This puts our nation at the centre of global power at a critical time. When Mr Abbott heard Australia was seeking this role in 2011, what was his response? He said this, I quote, "I don't think we should be spending money we don't have to promote a cause which is unlikely to come to anything," end quote. There is no issue too big for Tony Abbott to show exactly how small he is. He's got something to offer if you want someone to join you on your morning run. But running the country, he's just not up to it. His ideas are too narrow, his worldview is too restricted, and his ambition is just too small. Now, the problem isn't that Mr Abbott is stuck in the past. The problem is that he wants everyone in Australia to stay back there just to keep him company. He doesn't like public transport. He doesn't like public schools. He doesn't like public health. He doesn't like the public delivery of broadband. I sense a pattern here. Mr Abbott just doesn't seem to like the public. My friends, elections are about choices, and in this election, the choice could not be more stark. I've had the honour of working with Kevin Rudd for 15 years. I have never met anyone more focused on his vision for our country. His ambition for Australia is as big as this great country itself. His enthusiasm for serious, groundbreaking reform in the grand Labor tradition is extraordinary. Kevin has had his critics, but one thing we know about him is that he cares about our country, and as he said in his launch in 2007, he really is here to help. Now, the risk of upsetting my leader, is Kevin Rudd a bit of a nerd? You bet. Would I pick him in a rugby team or in a boxing match ahead of Tony Abbott? No way. But he is the right man to lead this country. He's the right man to build the schools and hospitals of the future. He's the right man to build the NBN. He's the right man to continue to deliver economic growth, jobs and prosperity. He's the right man to deliver the Better Schools Plan. He's the right man to take action on climate change for this and for future generations to come. Kevin Rudd cares about your job, he cares about your family and he cares about your future. And when he says that, we all know that he means it. Kevin is going to come on stage soon and tell you about his plans. But to introduce him, let's hear from someone who knows him better than anyone. Please welcome my friend Therese Rain.